got him. Shoot again.
Good shot, Scott.
You got him. Got him, perfect. Right,
Good job,
perfect.
Scott.
He's going down. He's going down. He is down, Scott Jones!
That's a nice ball.
That is the one from this morning. Two shots right in the boiler. Hey folks, Randy Newberg here. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is when you're watching this video. Today, we're getting near the end of all of our application season videos brought to you by Go Hunt. For 2024, the whole idea, the theme, the mantra, the message is get you a tag for 2024. And hopefully, some of the information we've provided has helped with that. Now, today, we're going to talk about Idaho. We're going to talk about elk, deer, and pronghorn. And we're going to combine it with moose, goat, and sheep. If you want way more detail, go out to Go Hunt, read their strategy articles. They do one for moose, goat, and sheep, and they do another one for elk, deer, and pronghorn, and you're going to get way, way more information. And if you do go out there and you want to sign up for their platform, use promo code RANDY, and they'll put $50 of credit in the gear shop for you. Now you got two deadlines you got to remember when it comes to Idaho. So the first deadline you need to know is April 30th, 2024 is the controlled hunt tag deadline for moose, goat, and sheep. And then the second deadline, you want to put this on your calendar, June 5th, 2024 is the controlled hunt tag deadline for deer, elk, and pronghorn. So be thinking about that. If you want to get into the bigger parts of the draw, you're probably going to end up going to the June deadline because I'm going to talk about how you can do 3 different applications in June. If you want to go into the earlier part of the draw for moose, goat, and sheep, you can only do one of them. So we'll get into that. Now, when we're talking general deer and elk tags for non-residents, those are on a region system and a hunting district system or quotas. Those went on sale December 1, 2023, so about 4 or 5 months ago. And as always the chaos, they sell out that day. Now they start getting return tags throughout the year, and if you go out to the website for Game and Fish, it'll tell you when these non-resident return tags are going to go back on sale. And I think in the Go Hunt strategy article or the Go Hunt tag 2024 tag deadline, they also have those dates listed there. So, controlled hunts, what are they? In most states, they're called limited entry hunts. These are the hunts that are not the general over-the-counter hunts. These are the really coveted hunts that you have to apply in a lottery. And in Idaho, you have a lot of options, but there's the first fork in the tree, the first branch in the road, whatever you want to call it, in your decision tree. Do I want to apply for one of moose, goat, and sheep? Because if you do that, then you can't apply for deer, elk, and antelope. So you have to decide. And that's why the draw odds in Idaho are so good for moose, goat, and sheep, is you have to decide right away. Am I going into the big 3 draw? Or am I going to go and wait until June and I'm going to go into the deer, elk, pronghorn draw? And if I go in there, I can do all 3 of them. But if I go in there, I can't do any of the moose, goat, and sheep. So you kind of got to make some decisions right away in Idaho. Now when you do this, no matter which way you go with the fork in the road, you have to buy $195 non-refundable, non-resident license and stamps. The license is $185 and there's a $10 stamp. Then, if you go over here into the expensive moose, goat, and sheep draw, you also got $45.75 as your application fee. If you go over here in deer, elk, and pronghorn, it's $15 per species as your application fee. Now, let's talk about fees, right? Let's go over here to the expensive side of moose, goat, and sheep, because here's where the 2 draw systems are a little different. Over here, you have to front all the money, okay? You have to front and the application fee, the license fee, and then this tag fee. And this tag fee I'm talking about is $2,626.75. And then on top of all these things, they hit you for a 3% credit card transaction fee. So if you add up your license, your application fee, your tag fee, and your credit card processing fee, it comes to $2,957 and change, of which over $330 of it is non-refundable. So that's how expensive of a raffle ticket you're buying over here when you go into moose, goat, and sheep. And that's why it's really hard to justify Idaho just for moose, goat, and sheep unless money's not an object. Most non-residents go over here into the deer, elk, and pronghorn, and there's a couple of reasons why. The fees are much lower, and you don't have to front all the money, so you don't get this 3% transaction cost on a big pool of money. So the price for the deer tag, if you draw, you will get charged $351 something. Elk, you'll get hit for a little over $650. Pronghorn, you'll get hit for a little over $342. So over here on the deer, elk, and pronghorn, you're looking at a sunk cost of $195 for your license and stamps, $15 per species, plus maybe another $8 or $10 for your credit card transaction fee. So you can see that sunk cost because of that license is still pretty expensive. The other thing you'll want to note about this is in the moose, goat, and sheep, if you do draw, they will mail you your tag. Over here in the elk, deer, and pronghorn, if you draw, they don't mail you the tag. You got to go online to Idaho Game and Fish and get it before August 1st and then pay your fee of $350, $650, or $340, whatever the fee is for the tag you drew. So now, once you pick either one of these systems, the big three or the deer, elk, pronghorn, Idaho does not have a point system. 3 cheers for Idaho. Yeehaw. They don't have a point system. So your odds every year, whether you want to get out or move from one part of the draw to the other side of the draw, there's no penalty for doing that. We as non-residents are not guaranteed any tags. We're capped at up to 10%, but we're competing with the residents for the same pool of tags. So there's a lot of years non-residents don't get the 10%, okay? But once the 10% cap is hit, all the non-residents who've applied for that hunt code, we're out of luck. The other thing about Idaho's draw, they look at all first choice applicants before they come back around and do second choice applicants. So as a non-resident, just focus on your first choice no matter which side of the draw you go into, because there are not going to be any second choices left for us non-residents. So if you think that any hunt is worth drawing, you need to consider it as a first choice. Don't put it as a second choice. The beauty of that, it makes Idaho very easy to explain. Not a lot of details there, right? Most of it is explaining how the split works and the differences are between moose, goat, and sheep, and deer, elk, and pronghorn. So there's always the question of, are there any short-term options in Idaho? Yeah, there are for deer and elk, if you're lucky. I mentioned this general tag situation that goes on sale December 1st of every year. Well, those all got sold out, but that's an option. It's in the rearview mirror. Now, there's a lot of those that get returned because when non-residents apply in other states throughout the winter and they draw Arizona or New Mexico, they're like, oh, I don't need this Idaho tag now, and they return them. And they return them. And they keep returning them. And Idaho sets these dates when the return tags go on sale. And then we get later into the summer, I think it's like August 1st, any tags returned from non-residents after August 1st can be picked up by residents. As long as they pay the non-resident fee, they could end up with 2 buck tags or 2 bull tags. So now there's also a second draw that happens for any unclaimed tags. And by that, you know how I said that if you draw on the deer, elk, or pronghorn, you have to pick up your tag by August 1st. Every year, there's a bunch of people who forget to do that or don't know that they're supposed to do that. And so there's a pool of tags. I think that draw deadline is August 15th. They take all those unclaimed tags and they do a second draw for it. There's not that many of them, but if you've already bought the license and everything else and it fits your calendar, it's not too late in the year to juggle your calendar, may as well put in for the second draw also. But if you're looking for short-term options, you should be marking your calendar for the December 1st fiasco that happens every year. Or be looking at some of these not leftover, but return tags that get reissued. So Idaho has a ton of public land. 65% of Idaho is public land, and a lot of their best hunting is on that public land. So you're never going to have a problem finding a place to hunt in Idaho if you pick your units appropriately. Idaho has some pretty cool youth stuff. They have a mentored youth hunting license. It's $95. It's still a chunk of money, but it's cheaper than our adult license. They have to have passed Hunter Ed by the time they turn 10. As far as Hunter Ed, if you're born after January 1, 1975, you have to have passed Hunter education. There's some really good archery and muzzleloader hunts in Idaho, and there are some restrictions. Now, when it comes to archery, there's been recent legislation that changed some rules about lighted nocks and about mechanical broadheads and stuff like that, but there's still some restrictions with archery gear. Make sure you read that to find out that what you're using is legal. Muzzleloader is way more restrictive than archery. Doesn't allow scopes, it's all open sights. There's a ton of restrictions on the type of projectile, the powder types. So Idaho's idea on muzzleloader is to try keep it a primitive season. So make sure you check those out before you apply for a muzzleloader tag. Now, returning a tag in Idaho, it's a little more difficult for moose, goat, and sheep. It needs a certified medical reason or military deployment. That's pretty much the only way you're going to get to return your tag for moose, goat, and sheep. But why would you return a moose, goat, or sheep tag unless it was one of those reasons? I can't think of one. Over here in the deer, elk, and pronghorn, since the tag is not mailed to you, the way you could return it is just don't buy it by the August 1st deadline. And then it goes back into a second draw. If you have bought it, again, the only reason that you're allowed to return it is if it ends up for a certified medical reason or military deployment. So, is Idaho worth it? This gets to be a little bit of editorial. It gets to be a little bit of personal opinion. One of the benefits of Idaho is it's later in the draw cycle. So you've already got some of the results from some of the states. And if you've already drawn tags and your calendar's full, there's no penalty in sitting out Idaho for a year and save those sunk costs of the license, the stamps, and everything else. Now, if you've already bought your 2024 hunting license back in December, on December 1st, because you bought a general tag, well, then it's a no-brainer. I mean, you've sunk most of your costs. If you have the budget, yeah, you should do it. Now, if the budget is pretty tight, both in terms of the upfront costs and the sunk costs, if you're going to do Idaho, make sure it doesn't come at the expense of other hunts in other states that have lower sunk costs, lower upfront costs, because too many people shoot for the moon in moose, goat, or sheep, and it comes at the expense of other places where they have a realistic possibility of drawing a tag just because how they allocated their budgets. So if the budgets aren't an issue, well, yeah, Idaho is definitely worth it. So that's Idaho. Pretty simple. You have to remember the deadlines. If you want way more detail, I mean like a lot of detail, go out to Go Hunt, sign up there, use promo code Randy. They'll put $50 of credit in your gear shop when you do that. And you will have more information in those strategy articles than what I can do in a video. Just remember the deadline. Depending on which fork in the road you want to take, the deadline over here for moose, goat, and sheep is April 30th, 2024. If you're going to hang around and wait and see and maybe use deer, elk, and pronghorn as your last resort, that deadline is June 5th. That's all you got to know. Idaho's pretty simple. Good luck if you apply.